Like snow, the night sky does not discriminate in what it will or will not cover. The street lights above and the flashing squad cars below cast a light into the private office of the Phoenix nightclub. Everything could be seen, from the mahogany desk where the Dumac sat to the little drops of moisture forming on the forehead of a slight man who stood, with his head bent, next to an astonishingly beautiful and exquisitely dressed young woman. She was a domi, a karaoke hostess who had worked for nightclubs in Seoul and Hong Kong, and now Koreatown in Los Angeles. She was seeking kiting money, a loan, an advance against the house. She called herself Cinnamon, though it was clearly not her true name. The flashing squad car lights rhythmically changed the domi's gown from gold to red and back again. The slinky fabric clung to the swell of her ripe curves, revealing her surgically enhanced breasts to 3 other men in the room. The slight man wiped his forehead. He had arranged this meeting. Cinnamon had asked for $50,000, an extraordinary sum, more than double the usual advance. Why so much? The Dumac wondered absently. The only movement in the room was a flick of the Dumac's eyes as the red lights flashed, exposing the domi's cleavage one moment and hiding it the next. The high slit up the front of her gown, exposing her shapely thighs, pale and erotic above black lace stockings. This one wore very expensive shoes with thin black leather straps that inevitably made you think of sex. It was just bad luck that this time her beauty would work against her. Mix stood in the shadows. He was the personal bodyguard of the Dumac. He had the physical strength of 3 men. He had been with the Dumac from the beginning and was fiercely loyal. He watched his boss out of the corner of his eye. He had a bad feeling about this Cinnamon girl. She looked like the girl in the photo the Dumac kept buried deep in the right-hand drawer of his desk. Mix had seen it once, but that had been a long time ago. He didn't need to see it again. The girl in the photo had a face you could never forget. The 3rd man in the room was called the Enforcer, and he was large, thick, and his body was covered with tattoos. It was said the Dumac was the most ruthless man in Koreatown. Of course, the Dumac attracted rumors, the currency of whispers, because known facts about him were few. The Dumac was like that. He had the protection of the streets, as well as the protection of the politicians. Even the whispers protected him. The Dumac motioned slightly with his finger toward the bar. Cinnamon hurried over to pour him a drink, the scent of expensive perfume trailing. She poured a cognac and walked over to the Dumac and held the snifter out with one hand, the other slender hand slightly holding her wrist in the deferential way of the domies. She looked up, just as the flashing light outside cast a red hue on the Dumac's face, exposing an ugly disfigurement. The sight of it made her hand tremble, causing the cognac to ripple. Only 2 men knew how the injury had occurred, and one of them was dead. The Dumac studied the trembling girl. His face was a mask. Her resemblance to Nara Song, a woman whose memory still tortured him, was remarkable and unfortunate. The Dumac stood and walked across the room to the safe, where he removed 5 bundles of cash, $50,000 wrapped in treasury bands. Cinnamon smirked. She would get her price. Even the Dumac was just a man, and she was an expert at working men. It was just her bad luck that the Dumac turned just in time to catch the smirk. He paused, then casually removed the treasury bands one at a time, slowly. He threw the money into the air like it was confetti and watched as the $100 bills fluttered to the ground to form a thick green carpet at his feet. He then took the cognac from her hand and poured it on the floor beneath him as if he were pouring chocolate sauce on a banana split.